Gotcha, didn't I? I get you every year. It's my favorite time of year. You had to know I was going to bust that out at least once this Halloween season. What's going on, guys? It is a Friday night. Solomonster back here with you. I took a few extra minutes after SmackDown went off the air because I wanted to see the beginning of Rampage. And the beginning of Rampage had the Santana Ortiz match, which I've been looking forward to seeing. And I heard good things about, what Rampage was going to be tonight. There's a Takeshita match with Kyle Fletcher in the main event, but I wanted to see Santana and Ortiz. And they had a hell of a brawl where if you watched it at different points during the match, you could tell that these two were laying in their shots pretty good. They did not hold anything back. They had a hell of a hardcore match as hardcore matches go. Not like a bloody affair or anything like that. It's sad in many ways because there is, a very real falling out that the two of them have had. They have some very legitimate disagreements. It is not part of the storyline. It's not an angle or anything like that. They were professional enough to work together. They had, I thought, a hell of a match tonight. Great performance from both men. A big win for Santana. And that should officially close the door, at least for now, on the partnership between Santana and Ortiz. Santana wants to go on and do singles on his own. Yeah, he doesn't want to do the tag team thing anymore, and that was his choice. I'm not sure that Ortiz agreed with that choice, and perhaps that had something to do with their falling out. We don't know. But it was a hell of a match, so if you didn't see it, that might be worth going out of your way to check out on Rampage. Now, let's talk about SmackDown, because that's why you guys are all here. We'll talk about tonight's show, which did not air on Fox. It got bumped because tonight was Game 1 of the World Series. And so SmackDown tonight aired on FS1 instead, so I'm sure when the numbers come in, they will reflect that. Usually when they end up on FS1, they lose, I think they lose about 1 million viewers, don't they? A little over 1 million usually. When they switch to when they get bumped and switch to a different network. But we were 1 week before Crown Jewel, which is next Saturday in Saudi Arabia, and tonight we had the contract signing for the main event next weekend between Roman Reigns and LA Knight for the undisputed WWE Championship. Tonight was the first night where it really hit me seeing Roman Reigns and LA Knight together in the ring. Now, they had an in-ring promo segment a few weeks ago, and LA Knight more than held his own. But watching him out there tonight, sitting at that table in the ring for the contract signing, with that smirk on his face, the glasses on his face, sitting at the head of the table in the position that Roman is usually sitting in, he looked like and felt like he belonged. And it made me think of where he was a year ago as compared to now. And the fans have embraced him and accepted him not only as a star, but as a main event star. Because he was in there tonight with the top star in the company. And again, never looked out of place. In fact, I think that they gave him more on the mic than they did Roman, but more than held his own on the microphone in there with Roman Reigns. So to that end, it was a good night for LA Knight, who closed out the show with a win over Jimmy Uso. The final shot of the show, him standing over Roman Reigns. He outsmarted Roman. He dropped him with the BFT. That was the parting shot at the end of tonight's SmackDown. Does not bode well for him next weekend, though. The problem with this whole scenario is that we know, I can't even say who's winning and losing, because I could see him, walking out with a disqualification win. But we all know that LA Knight is not leaving Riyadh with the WWE Championship. And so, knowing that going in, they are doing everything right so far with LA Knight outside of putting him in this match, frankly, this soon. But they're doing everything in their power to make sure that he is on the level with Roman Reigns. He is not less than. The fans are embracing him. They're accepting him. I hope that continues after he loses, after he fails to win the championship, because he will end up just like Drew McIntyre. He will end up just like Sami Zayn. And he will end up just like Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania this year. And Sami Zayn, look, his popularity has waned a little bit since then. Not that he isn't popular, but he kind of reached that peak. He's not at that peak anymore. Cody has been able to maintain his popularity. Drew is undergoing, some sort of an attitude change and a possible heel turn. I think LA Knight will be okay because they're all in on him. This is not some fake push. They are pushing him like a main event player. And so my hope is that coming out of Crown Jewel, that doesn't change. the fans aren't so fickle that they decide to bail on the guy. But we also tonight, we had John Cena coming out for a promo segment, laying it on very thick. Boy, was he trying to go for the sympathy factor here on this show. Coming out to address the fans. He doesn't know what his future will be if he loses this next big match that they made official today. John Cena one-on-one with Solo Sikoa at Crown Jewel next weekend. That will likely be sayonara for John Cena because I don't see him wrestling or making any other appearances beyond Crown Jewel. I think Crown Jewel is going to be it for this round of John Cena, and then he goes away again. But they were laying it on real thick that he has to win this match. And it reminded me of a WrestleMania match that John Cena had many years ago with a gentleman by the name of The Rock, somebody else who's part of that same bloodline. Their very first match at WrestleMania 28 in Miami, when John Cena said, I have to beat The Rock. I have to win that match. And if I don't win that match, it's almost as if life as we know it is over for John Cena. And what happened? John Cena lost at WrestleMania and the world didn't end. In fact, the very next night, Brock Lesnar came back and John Cena quickly transitioned into the very next feud. So John Cena will be just fine, but the predictable match has now been made official. It will be him and Solo at Crown Jewel. Bianca Belair getting a women's championship match. We're going to talk about that and the rest of what I thought was a very ho-hum, very paint by numbers, just kind of decent at best episode of SmackDown. There was nothing terribly exciting, but there was nothing terribly awful about it. It was a show. It existed. I don't really have a whole lot to be excited about sitting here telling you about SmackDown. And maybe that was because they knew they were bumped to FS1 and that their audience would be cut in half. Maybe that played a role in their thinking and the way that Triple H booked tonight's show. So I wouldn't call it bad, but this is not a show that if you missed, you have to go back and watch it because, boy, you missed a lot. No, you really didn't. You really didn't. Now, there's something else I want to talk about here briefly. Before I go on and I get into the rest of what happened on tonight's show. This is something that I have talked about on the podcast before. Periodically, I will talk about it because it's something that, even now to this day, still puzzles me. I still have no idea. And we have no explanation as to why this has been the case. But WWE, a number of years ago, they produced a documentary about a gentleman by the name of Vladimir. Now, you may know Vladimir. I guarantee you know Vladimir. If you saw a picture of Vladimir, you would instantly recognize him if you've been watching wrestling for any length of time. He is the quintessential super fan. He has been around for decades. He's a huge wrestling fan. I've met him a few times. Seems like a really cool guy. You could always see him. He always stuck out in the crowd. He usually was there with like a muscle shirt or a tank top on, these big glasses. Always had seats, if not in the front row, somewhere in that front section. He was always on camera. So they did a documentary. They actually awarded him a plaque naming him the first ever WWE superfan. Triple H and Stephanie presented him with an award. I think it was WrestleMania 37 weekend. Because I think it was coming out of COVID in that they were starting to get people back in and they had people at that WrestleMania. So I want to say it was WrestleMania 37. But they presented him with this award, and they filmed a documentary about his life. And they put a trailer out for it, which is still up on their YouTube channel from many years ago. They were submitting it, I think, to at least one film festival. They had a release date issued for it. I was looking forward to it. And then, no documentary. It was never released. It's been sitting in a vault. It has not seen the light of day. And every time somebody would inquire with WWE, including Vladimir's friends, Mike Johnson, a PW Insider, is like his best friend, he would ask around, could not get a straight answer about why this documentary was shelved. It was completed, it was praised, and then it was almost like they were afraid to release it. And unfortunately, Vladimir has not been in the best of health in recent years. He's had some health struggles. I noticed that the last time I saw him, which was outside of actually a House of Glory show in New York City last year when we ran Terminal 5, he came to the show. So he's had a rough go. And all of a sudden, earlier this evening, I'm looking at my social media replies. And somebody sends me a tweet that indicates that the Vladimir documentary, and this again was the logo they created for it at the time they put it together, the picture you see on your screen right now, that apparently the documentary is just sitting there right now on the WWE network. So if you are an international subscriber to the network, you can go right now, if you want to, and access the documentary. It's a little over 30 minutes, maybe 35 minutes long. And somebody just randomly, this person, Pericles, shout out to Pericles on Twitter, said he was watching the documentary because he just stumbled upon it. He was looking for something to watch, and there it was. No announcement, no fanfare. They just threw it up there. Now, unfortunately, it's up on the network, but that does not mean it's up on Peacock here in the U.S. What I am hoping is that it will shortly be rolled out on Peacock. But I don't know if that's going to be the case or not. So I don't have a way to watch it, but if you are international and you would like to check it out, who knows? They may yank it again. They may yank it back down, but if you want to check it out, little public service announcement here, you can now go ahead and check out the Vladimir documentary. Hey, you know, Daddy Ugarte has a great idea. This is a great time for a cheap plug for ExpressVPN. I think you may be right. ExpressVPN may be the way to go. And I got a link. I got a link for you. There you go. Promo code Solomonster, Quizzical. Looking out for me. This is your Friday Night Smackdown review for Friday night, October 27, 2023. I am the Solomonster. Like and subscribe to the channel. We picked up a bunch of subs this week. I appreciate you very much. 400 likes is the goal that I have set tonight if we are to be the booker. So get those likes on in. Super chats are open. I do appreciate those as well. I will be reading the messages that you send to me. So send them on in. Channel memberships are open as well. And we'll hang out for a little bit later as long as there are messages to go through. But let's go through this show right now, because SmackDown opened. It kicked off with the contract signing between Roman Reigns and LA Knight for their championship match at Crown Jewel. LA Knight took a seat at the head of the table. The seat that Roman Reigns usually has, he took that seat instead. Paul Heyman came out with Roman. They didn't look like they appreciated that very much. So SmackDown General Manager Nick Aldis was in the ring. He introduced us to a SmackDown contract signing here. He was giving us this whole big preamble, and LA Knight cut him off and started reading from the contract. It was not lost on me looking at these two in the ring together. We had Nick Aldis and LA Knight in the same ring at the same time. So it was as if NWA Power from Season 1 has come to SmackDown here. Knight was reading from the contract. He told Roman that the contract said Roman Reigns will hand the championship over to him at Crown Jewel. Roman asked him if he's ever had a championship match before. Have you ever been in this position before? Have you ever even had a championship match? He said he did not. Roman told him that he did not. So he said Knight had no idea what he was doing right now. But don't worry, he said the tribal chief is going to go easy on you. He's going to be real gentle with him because it's his first time. You know, it's a shame we don't have Issa with us here in the chat, because she would be fanning herself right now. She would be losing her mind. But Roman told him he's going to be gentle on him because this is his first time. He even called him sweetheart when he told him that. So Roman went to sign the contract. He got angry because the pen had no ink. So he threw the pen away, and Paul Heyman gave him a better pen. He signed the contract. Fans started a Roman scared chant, which he laughed off. And Aldis thanked them, and he said that his portion of the festivities is now over, and he wished them luck. And with that, Nick Aldis took his leave. Roman went to get up, and Knight told him, you know, from where I'm sitting, I'm the head of the table, so acknowledge me. And Knight said that it was sweet of Roman to say that he would be gentle with him. He said, Reigns may not even know it, but he's already beat. And he said that it might be his first time in this position, but it happened only after a single year. He said he would do it his first time out, because while Roman was saying suffer and succotash and failing for years, he's out here in run number 1, selling everybody on the fact that it is his game. And Knight said that it would happen so fast that Roman would be looking up at the lights and watching Knight walk out with his title because there was nothing he could do to stop the gravy train. And that wasn't an insult. That was a fact of life. So this greatly aggravated Roman Reigns. And he overturned the table vertically. So he picked the table up, it vertically goes up over Knight's head, and it went out of the ring. He's lucky he didn't wipe out half the front row. I'm telling you, one of these days there's going to be some sort of incident where a piece of furniture, whether it's one of those giant office chairs that the announcers sit in, or one of these tables, and the fucking table leg is going to take an eye out in the front row, and they're going to have a $5 million lawsuit on their hands. I don't know if WWE on the back of their tickets has a warning like they do at baseball games. You know, they warn you that you might be hit by a baseball. You can't sue Major League Baseball. I wonder if WWE actually has something like that on the back of their tickets. You might get hit by a flying chair or a flying table. We are exempt from being held responsible for it. So he sends Knight out to the floor. He grabs another table and he brings that into the ring and sets it up. Knight starts to fight back. He stomped the mud hole in Roman in the corner. Jimmy then comes out, Jimmy Uso, and he ambushes LA Knight, jumps him from behind. That gives Roman a chance to escape with Heyman out to the floor. Heyman is yelling for Jimmy to get him. Roman looks up and Jimmy's looking to him for approval. And Roman tells him, go ahead, take care of business. As soon as Jimmy turns around, though, Knight catches him and he lifts him up and he puts him through the table instead. And they played Knight's music to close out the segment. He was pointing at the end of this to Roman and his championship. That he won't win. Even though it sure would be nice to have an active champion on the show on most weeks. That's not what we're getting at Crown Jewel. So I liked having LA Knight sit in his seat. I liked him taking the seat at the head of the table for this segment and just generally being annoying and getting under Roman's skin. Knight was great here. I thought he came off great. He came off like a total star. But as I said, he will suffer the same fate that Drew McIntyre suffered in Cardiff, that Sammy suffered in Montreal, and that Cody suffered in LA. That's just the way it's going to be. And I wish that it wasn't so predictable, but they did a good job, though, as good of a job as they could do, to try to convince you that this is actually going to play out in a way where maybe he actually has a prayer of winning the championship in Riyadh, but he does not. It was supposed to be Rey Mysterio and Santos Escobar against the Street Profits. That did not happen. Instead, we were told that Carlito went to Rey and told Rey that he wanted revenge on them for what they did to him. They had jumped him backstage, I think a week or two ago. So Rey said, okay, you can take my spot in the match. So it ended up being Carlito and Santos Escobar against the Street Profits. Bobby Lashley made his entrance. And then he introduced the Street Profits. They came out. And they came out to new music. So the heel turn is complete because now they have new gear. They have new music. The red Solo cups are gone. And the music, I mean, it sounded fine. You know, it sounded very generic, but they needed new music. They needed it to complete the makeover. It's not enough to just say, oh, this is the new Street Profits, but they come out with the Solo cups and the same music. This was a needed change. So I'm glad to see that they finally did that. Right before the break, Carlito low-bridged Montez Ford. He went flying outside, and Angelo Dawkins was there as well. And so Escobar is on the apron. He's not the legal man. But he goes to climb, and he climbs to the middle rope. But before he can hit his moonsault, Carlito looks over to him and says, no, wait. He goes, I want to dive. And so Carlito hits the ropes, and he does a flip dive out onto the Street Profits on the floor. That took us into the commercial break. Profits turned their fortunes around during the break. Ford applied a camel clutch to Escobar, who briefly escaped. But a distraction from Angelo Dawkins, that allowed Ford to hit an enziguri. Dawkins tagged in. He hit a splash and a kick in the corner. Escobar flew out of the corner and connected with a running knee that led to a tag to Carlito. He delivered a super kick to Dawkins and a sit-out powerbomb on Ford for a near fall. Carlito attempted a backstabber, but Ford avoided it, and he rolled him up for 2. Although Carlito then did get a neck breaker. And at that point, I could hear someone, I assume the referee, saying, "Go home." Just as they cut to a shot of Rey Mysterio backstage watching the match on TV, when he is jumped from behind by Logan Paul, who blindsides him, sucker punches him. And he knocks Rey to the floor, he talks some shit, and then he walks off. Carlito sees this. Escobar sees this. Carlito is in the aisle. He's looking up at the screen. He doesn't know what to do. He looks back at Escobar. He looks back at the screen. He's torn. He doesn't know what to do. Escobar is in the ring. He says, "Go. I got this. Go. Go tend to Rey." And Carlito runs to the back. What happened to Joaquin Wilde and Cruz del Toro, by the way? Why were they not there? I thought the LWO was a family. You would think they would all be there, but I guess not. I guess Rey was all by himself. So Escobar says, "It's fine. I got this. Go ahead. Go take care of Rey." Spoiler, he did not have this. Because a short time later, Escobar missed the blind tag from Angelo Dawkins, did not see it, and he ran right into their new Revelation finish. They call it the Revelation, which is basically Angelo Dawkins goes to give the person the D'Lo Brown Sky High, and as the opponent is coming down, Montez Ford vaults in from out of nowhere and hits a neck breaker on the way down, which is a pretty cool finish. I'm a sucker for, that tandem offense, big double team, tag team finish. Like the Hart Foundation, LOD, Demolition back in the day, they all had tandem finishes, or the 3D. I was always a big fan of that. So Dawkins covered Escobar, pinned him to win the match for the Profits. There have now been multiple instances on this show over the past several months of Santos Escobar getting either upstaged by Rey Mysterio or screwed over in some way. Maybe not on purpose, but basically being screwed over by Rey Mysterio or something that happens to Rey Mysterio when Rey got hurt, right? Legit in their television match back at the end of July. That's one example of it, even if that wasn't the plan. But this has happened now a few times over the past few months on television. And even though Carlito here told him, "Look, I'll stay," and Escobar was like, no, go to the back. I got this. In the end, he was left by himself. And it cost them the match thanks to Rey getting attacked by Logan Paul. So this has to be building to something. I think we've known this for a while, but I wasn't sure if they were shifting gears and changing plans. It's been dragging out now for months. Clearly, this is going somewhere. Now, Carlito just joined the LWO in the last few weeks. So we may have to give it a little more time. Some may say that it's already had enough time, but clearly this is going to end with Escobar taking issue with Rey Mysterio. Now, whether or not he goes heel, I would think he does, but we don't know which direction they're going to take this in. I think that's the ultimate direction, where he just gets tired of these situations from developing and feels like it's holding him back. And then we can get a proper Rey Mysterio Santos Escobar pay-per-view match. I would not mind that being the WrestleMania match for Rey Mysterio. By the time we get to WrestleMania, Rey Mysterio should not be the United States champion. I don't know that Rey Mysterio will frankly be the United States champion after next weekend. There's really no reason for him to be the United States champion, other than to just transition that title over to somebody else, and it shouldn't take until WrestleMania for him to do that, unless the idea is for him to drop it to Santos Escobar. Which is what I thought the plan was going to be, but it sure seems like Logan Paul's got a pretty damn good chance of walking out of Riyadh with that belt. So if that's the case, I still hope they move in that direction, and maybe WrestleMania, we get a great proper match. Give them 15 minutes out there on night one. Maybe even open the show with it. Go out there at WrestleMania, let them show up and show out and show us what they can do. And then let that be the biggest win of Escobar's career when he beats Rey Mysterio at WrestleMania. So this is going to drag out for a while longer. I think that's probably what it's building to. So to the back we go. Paul Heyman is in the Bloodline locker room with Roman Reigns. And Heyman is sitting there and he is holding a custom WWE Green Bay Packers Championship belt. And for those of you who don't know, WWE for a while now has been producing they have a deal with the NFL. And they have been producing these custom championship belts for all of the NFL teams, except the Jacksonville Jaguars. So he's holding the Green Bay Packers belt, and Reigns wants to know, what is that? And he said he's going to present it to LA Knight because it is the closest that LA Knight or the Green Bay Packers are going to come to becoming a champion, which is undoubtedly true, at least for the foreseeable future. Although LA Knight will be a champion before the Green Bay Packers are. Jimmy Uso showed up. He laid down on the couch, and Roman asked him, "Where were you?" And he said, "I was in the trainer's room." He goes, "What are you doing?" Jimmy says, I ran the play, that we talked about. He goes, "Yeah, but you ran the wrong play." He goes, "If we don't control this fool, it's all over." He goes, "You got to handle him tonight." And Jimmy said, "Look, I'm on the injured reserve list. I can't do anything tonight." And Roman asks him, "What did you say?" And Jimmy, without missing a beat, he very quickly shot back. He goes, "Well, I'm off the injured reserve list, so I can do something tonight." And Heyman said, "Okay, great. I'm going to go tell Nick Aldis that the main event of tonight's show is going to be LA Knight one-on-one with Jimmy Uso." And he went to go talk to the GM, and Jimmy looked at Roman and went, "Yeet." And Roman just looked at him and said, "Like I told you, I don't like that." I would like to know, where are all the people who told me, and there were a number of people who told me on social media, that as far as this storyline is concerned, when I was talking about how it's jumped the shark and this is ridiculous, Jimmy Uso, after everything we sat through over the course of this year, is now just willingly back in the bloodline. All I heard from some people was, you got to give it time. It's all part of the plan. Maybe it's part of his master plan to manipulate Solo into leaving Roman Reigns, right? He's going to infiltrate the bloodline and pretend that he wants to be back in the bloodline, but in the end, it's really just about him trying to convince his brother to leave and take down Roman Reigns. I don't hear from these people anymore. I haven't heard from them lately. I'm just wondering, where are these people? Haven't heard from them in a while. Sure doesn't seem like there's any real plan here to infiltrate and take down the bloodline. It's just Jimmy Uso just wanted to go back into the bloodline. Logan Paul was shown he was walking through the backstage area when Kathy Kelly caught up with him, and he rambled on for a little bit, and then he just left her high and dry. He walked off. As he was walking, though, he came across Kevin Owens, who happened to just be he was standing up against the wall, because I guess that's just what Owens does. He just casually, like Cool Hand Luke over here, he's just standing up against the wall. And Logan looks at the shirt, because he was wearing a Rey Mysterio shirt, and he told him his shirt sucks, and he walked off. If Logan Paul wins the United States Championship at Crown Jewel, if he does not defend that title at WrestleMania against LA Knight, which I think is probably the best case scenario for LA Knight because he's not beating Roman Reigns, nor is he wrestling Roman Reigns again at WrestleMania. So the U.S. title may be the best thing he could hope for. But if that ends up not being the match, if they have some other plan for LA Knight, and I hope they do have a plan for him, I would like to see Kevin Owens get the match. If not Knight, I would like to see Kevin Owens against Logan Paul at WrestleMania for the United States Championship. I think that would be a very good match. And it would be a chance for Kevin Owens to win a championship at WrestleMania like he did this year. All right, he gets a big championship win. He takes the belt away from Logan Paul. So, again, if not LA Knight, then I hope they go with Kevin Owens for that spot. Austin Theory and Grayson Waller, they walked up to Owens once Logan Paul walked away. They confronted him and they took issue with him in the interview that he did in the empty arena stands last week. They took issue with him saying that they have very punchable faces. And he reiterated the point that I do think that you have a very punchable face. And so Jason Jordan and Jamie Noble showed up to separate them when they started going at each other. They cut back to Theory and Waller. And they're talking about Owens saying that he had threatened to punch them both in the face at the same time with a single punch. So now they're standing there by themselves and they're like, what's he talking about? You can't do that, right? And then all of a sudden you see from off camera, you see a fist come flying in. It's Kevin Owens. And with one fist, he punches them both in the face, one right after the other, and he knocks both of them down. Owens was so excited, he said, I got to go find Jamie. He starts chanting Jamie for Jamie Noble. He was going to go tell Jamie Noble what he did. One of you asked me a few weeks ago, if you remember, I think it might have been a super chat, who I thought Owens' first feud was going to be with on this show. And my answer was Grayson Waller. So I was half right. Because the match is coming soon, whether it's a handicap match or he gets the individual singles matches. He is, in fact, feuding with Grayson Waller as his first actual program, it looks like, here on SmackDown. Kayla Braxton was backstage elsewhere in the arena, and she was here to introduce us to, and this is how they introduced him, the Dynamic Dragon Lee, because everybody's got a nickname on this show. So we have the Dynamic Dragon Lee. So he starts talking a little bit in Spanish, and then he was transitioning over to English, and then Cedric Alexander showed up. Talk about a name that we haven't seen on these shows in a while. Cedric pops up, and he says, you know, you remind me of myself when I first stepped foot here in WWE. And I earned the respect of the audience. This is back when the fans were chanting, please sign Cedric. And he said he would love nothing more than a match with Dragon Lee tonight. He put his hand out for a handshake. And Dragon Lee told him it would be his pleasure to take him to his limit and beyond. That's what he said. Thought I was watching Toy Story here for a second. That's the first thing that crossed my mind. To infinity. And beyond. Beyond. Haven't seen that movie in so long, man. It's due for a rewatch. The original Toy Story. It's one of my favorite movies. Great movie. So we had Shotzi. See, there's Roman Reigns from another contract signing. Look at that super chat. Look at those nails he's got, too. How many contract signings do we have on this fucking show? My God. The rambunctious Rey Mysterio, says Daddy Ugarte. Yeah. Everybody's got a nickname on this show. Everybody's got a nickname. We had Shotzi against Chelsea Green, both of whom made appearances on NXT this week. If you missed it, night one of Halloween Havoc, which was actually a very good show. Shotzi was back as the host. She's hosted Halloween Havoc in the past. Chelsea and Piper Niven were backstage for a segment to set up a tag team title match this Tuesday coming up. They're going to be wrestling JC Jane and Thea Hale of Chase University. This was not much of a match. It went 3 minutes. I mean, how can you really judge it after 3 minutes? I mean, it's not a Goldberg match. So, at least there you might get, back in the day, you'd get some explosiveness, you know. I'm not talking about Goldberg of today. How can you judge in 3 minutes? Chelsea, by the way, Chelsea keeps losing. Chelsea is one half of the women's tag team champions. Now, I know the women's tag team titles are a joke in this company. They should not even exist the way that they are booked. Okay, they're useless. But Chelsea Green is nonetheless a champion in this company. She's one half of the women's tag team champions. But she's also had singles matches on TV. Chelsea Green has the worst win-loss record when it comes to singles matches, or at least she's tied maybe with other people, but she's got the worst win-loss record when it comes to singles matches on TV of anybody in this entire company. 9 singles matches this year. You know how many wins she's had? 0. Not a single one. So Chelsea landed a version of a Russian leg sweep from the middle rope. She got a 2 count out of it. She ran at Shotzi, but Shotzi pulled down the rope, and Green went out to the apron. From there, the two went to a corner, then to the middle rope, which led to Chelsea dropping Shotzi face first down onto the mat when Shotzi was attempting to pull off a superplex, and instead it got reversed, and she got dumped right on her face. Chelsea posed a little bit. She posed for a little too long, and she paid the price for it because Shotzi rolled her up and pinned her for the win. So some great momentum for one half of the women's tag team champions heading into that big title match on NXT next week. Good job. John Cena was out to the ring next to address the people. John Cena's time on this show is winding down. In fact, this might have been, if not the last appearance on SmackDown, the second to last appearance on SmackDown for John Cena. Because originally, October 27th, I believe, was going to be the final date for him. And then he got extended to Crown Jewel. So he could be on the show next week. Now, somebody check on this for me because I just thought about it. I believe, are they taping SmackDown tonight for next week? I thought they were taping 2 SmackDowns tonight because they're going to be flying out to Saudi at the end of next week. So SmackDown will obviously not be live. So I think they're taping 2 shows tonight. If somebody wants to check on that and confirm. So this may well end up being John Cena's final SmackDown appearance of this run. But he came out, obviously got a big reaction, and he was all pumped up. And he said, this is what SmackDown looks like, and this is what SmackDown feels like and sounds like here from a sold-out Milwaukee, Wisconsin. He said there's a special energy and excitement in the building. And then he remembered a time 20 years ago when WWE nearly fired him, which is true. He was on the chopping block, and then he just happened to get saved because Stephanie McMahon, I think, heard him freestyle rapping on a bus. And the rest is history. That saved it, literally, that shit saved his job. The whole course of WWE history would be totally different had John Cena actually been cut in 2002 when they wanted to fire him. So he mentioned that, and he said, but he dug in and things turned around. He thanked the audience for giving him their support and their respect. And then his tone turned very somber. Like somebody had died. He took, that tone of voice. He got very somber, and he said he feels like he's in danger of losing their support and their respect. This man was playing up the sympathy factor here to 100. He got chance of "you still got it," and then he asked the question, he goes, what if I don't? He said, the data cannot be ignored, and if I lose again, I am in danger of losing it. Whatever it is, he's in danger of losing it. He said Crown Jewel is a must-win for him. Now was the time to dig deep, knuckle up, and deliver. This brought out Paul Heyman. Came to the ring, and he gave this big introduction. He told Cena that he was out there without hustle, but only loyalty to the truth and much respect. And he shook Cena's hand. He put his hand out. Can I shake your hand, please? And Cena was a little leery, but put his hand out for the handshake, and he said, we were sold out, and he thanked John Cena for the house. He recalled drafting Cena to SmackDown from OVW 21 years ago, and he never let anybody down. But he did mention that at SummerSlam, that's 2 years ago, Roman Reigns proved that John Cena is not the greatest of all time in the ring anymore. But that's okay, he said. He called Cena the greatest of all time at being a communicator. See, that's like saying that you get a participation trophy here. We're not giving out different awards here. You're either the GOAT or you're not. But he said Cena is the greatest communicator in WWE history. He said Cena has a bond with the fans that Heyman could never have because Cena can talk in a way that nobody else in the world can. He said Cena could have been him. Could have been like Paul until he pissed off the bloodline. Because of that, the order has come from the very top to take Cena out. Heyman said that when Solo Sikoa hits Cena with that Samoan spike, Cena won't be able to talk anymore. So I guess we're supposed to forget about all those times in the program that John Cena had with Umaga back in the day. All the Samoan spikes that he took from Umaga. I guess that just didn't happen. He seemed to be okay from that. Heyman mocked Cena for saying that he has to win at Crown Jewel. He said the one match left that Cena must win, he can't win. He said that wasn't a prediction. And as he was trying to wrap up his whole spiel, you could see Solo Sikoa runs into the ring. He ambushes Cena. And he plants Cena with a spinning solo. And then he delivered a Samoan spike. Uh-oh. I guess that's it for John Cena, people. That's it. His career is over. His movie career is done. He can no longer speak. He will no longer be able to communicate because he took a Samoan spike. I don't know why it would be any different than any of the other people on the roster that have taken a Samoan spike. They seem to be okay. They're doing all right. Right? Even Ridge Holland took a Samoan spike, and he seems to be speaking just fine. But I guess that's it. I guess Cena's career in Hollywood has come to an end. You know, Cena, and as far as what they did here to set the match up, it was fine. But Cena has been laying it on very thick with all of the sympathy plays lately. And it's working because the fans love him. And I think even most of the fans who did not love him at least have an appreciation for him now that time has gone by and he doesn't show up all the time anymore. And some people still hate his guts. But clearly the crowd reaction to him is very different now than it would have been 10 years ago, or even less than that, right? So it's working. Comes out, he gets a big reaction. He plays up the sympathy factor, and they start chanting, you know, Cena, and you still got it, and all the other chants that they do. But the idea that he is worried that the fans won't respect him anymore if he doesn't win a match soon, it's eye-rolling to me. It's just a very eye-rolling thing to have to listen to every single week, because it's bullshit. We all know it's bullshit, but he has to pretend that it's not. But it is a simple story for them to tell. They have him for a limited period of time. They want to tell a quick story, have him work with a couple of people. So this is the story that they have come up with. And with this story, that he has not won a televised match, a televised singles match, since 2018, which is when he wrestled Triple H at the very first Saudi show, the Greatest Royal Rumble. That's the story they have elected to tell. So now, when he does win, when and if, I should say, he does win that next match, which could be next weekend, it should get a big reaction, right? Because they have told you that John Cena, his world is falling apart. The numbers don't lie. Man, they should get Scott Steiner in to do a promo for him, right? The numbers don't lie. The math doesn't math. Something just doesn't equate here. That John Cena could go so long without a win. He's got to win this match at Crown Jewel. So now if he wins in Riyadh, everybody cheers. It's this big happy moment. But the question now, I don't think the question so much is you know, John Cena losing respect or anything like that. The question is he going to go out on his back looking up at the lights, doing the honors for Solo Sikoa, or is he going to win? And they're going to give people the happy ending moment with the story that they're telling. Right? That's what they always tell us. They tell stories in this company. If they want the story to have a happy ending, then John Cena gets the win. But if his goal here is to put Solo Sikoa over by having a competitive match with him, and then putting him over at the end of it, because Solo's been eating more losses lately than he's, you know, taken his entire run so far in the main roster. You know, he doesn't feel as invincible as he used to. So if it were me, it would be nice to see Solo Sikoa get the rub by actually going over on John Cena. John Cena loses nothing for losing to Solo Sikoa. But I just can't imagine that they're going to end this run and not even knowing when the next time is they're going to get John Cena back without giving him the big win and giving the people something to cheer for. But that speech by Paul Heyman, it felt like a send-off. You know, some of the things that he was saying about Cena, it felt like a send-off. Because, again, I think this is where he's wrapping up. I don't know that we are, you know, getting any more Cena appearances on SmackDown beyond tonight. They are taping the second show tonight as well. Obviously, he's in the building, so it wouldn't be hard for him to be on the show. But it would be very silly for Paul Heyman to say that if you get Samoan spiked, you won't be able to talk anymore, and then he's back on the show cutting a promo next week. So I would not expect him on SmackDown next week, but enjoy him, because I don't think Cena's going to be around for much longer. Now we had Dragon Lee one-on-one with Cedric Alexander. And with both men on the apron, Lee hit a wicked knee strike. It sounded great. Alexander came back with a Uranagi onto the apron as the show went to a commercial break. When the show came back, Alexander hit a wild Michinoku driver for 2. Dragon Lee was on the apron, and the two of them started battling on top. Lee hit a high double stomp onto Alexander. And Dragon Lee hit a huge sit-out powerbomb for a really good near fall. And there was some more back and forth. In the end, though, Lee hit the Destino. Whatever he calls it, it's the Destino. And he pinned Alexander. After the match, the two shook hands, and Cedric raised Dragon Lee's hand in the air. The ad break in the middle of the match didn't help. I mean, it never does. It's a necessary evil. It's unavoidable. But I thought it hurt this match. But what we got to see, I thought, was really solid stuff. And it was a good showcase for Dragon Lee. That's all this was designed to be. This was not meant to be any sort of formal reintroduction to Cedric Alexander, although they did, a decent job of trying to reintroduce him to us. But his purpose here was to go in there with Dragon Lee, have a competitive match, make him look good, and put him over. And so far, so good with Dragon Lee. He's not involved in a program at the moment, but it's clear they're pretty high on him. So I think so far they've done well by him. And again, this was fine for what it was. Give Alexander the chance to raise his arm and give him a little endorsement there at the end. So I thought this was fine. Then we had Bianca Belair, the former women's champion, who made her return on SmackDown last week, coming to the aid of one Charlotte Flair, who was not on the show tonight. She came out next for a promo, but not before a commercial break, after she already made her way to the ring. So for the next 5 minutes, she stood in the ring, twirling her braid and dancing around until they finally came back. They do this all the time. They've done this for years. It's the stupidest thing in the world. When I would go to these shows, it was even dumber. Because they would stand in the ring, they would darken the building, and they would put a bunch of ads up on the screen, and the person just stands in the ring like an idiot. They turn their music off, and then, 5 seconds before they come back on the air, they play the music again as if it was running the entire time. But the whole time they're just standing there doing nothing. And I don't understand why they do that. The way they format their show is very strange when it comes to that. Bianca said that she was excited to be back on SmackDown. And while she was away, she only had one thing on her mind. She pitched it to a video package with highlights of the last time we saw her was 2 months ago on SmackDown Backstage, and she was taken out by Damage Control. She said for the first time she was out, and she sat at home with nothing but her thoughts. She said that she thought about how she can make Damage Control pay. She said that she just could not let it go. No matter what she did, she can't let this go, what they did to her. She said that for the first time in her life, she was consumed with vengeance. And she said that she had a plan. She took that plan to Nick Aldis earlier. And now it was official. At Crown Jewel, it will be Bianca Belair challenging Io Sky for the WWE Women's Championship. But that's not all. The other part of her master plan is that next Friday, or tonight, on SmackDown, she would be going one-on-one with the architect of the whole plan to take her out, which was Bayley. So next week, Bianca one-on-one with Bayley. She said that she will take out Damage Control one by one before she reclaims her championship. And so Bianca is back. And the first thing she does when she comes back is she cashes in and she gets a women's championship match. She has learned so well from the woman that she saved in the ring last week. She has learned from the best. Oh, yes. She has learned from Charlotte Flair, who many times we have seen Charlotte Flair come back after a long layoff. And this layoff wasn't that long, but come back after a layoff of some months. And what happens? First thing, she gets another women's championship match and she cashes in her Charlotte in the Bank. And now Bianca Belair has joined Charlotte Flair, and I am proud to debut here on the stream tonight that Bianca Belair, for the very first time, has cashed in her Bianca in the Bank. Even though it says Charlotte in the Bank, ignore that. She now has the briefcase. She cashes in her Bianca in the Bank. And now she's getting a title match. Now, I understand that the last time we saw her was back at SummerSlam and she won, and then Io cashed in her Money in the Bank, which is fair, right? They've had Money in the Bank in this company now for almost 20 years. That's the nature of the beast. People cash in, sometimes at the worst possible moment for the champion. It's a cheap win, but it's legal. Those are the rules. There's nothing inherently wrong with that. And Io Sky became the champion. Now, I thought they did away with this automatic rematch stuff a few years ago. Have they already forgotten their own storylines? Not that they had anybody else lined up for Io Sky. I'm not saying that these two are not going to go out there and have a very good match at Crown Jewel, or that I'm not looking forward to it. I'm just saying, if we're going to criticize Charlotte Flair and her booking for the same thing, you got to call out Bianca Belair and her booking as well. It's like a mini Charlotte. She's got a ways to go before she catches up with Charlotte. But she now has her own Charlotte in the Bank briefcase. I still love how Charlotte's name is still on there. I don't know. I just find that funny. Anyway, now they have something else in common. There you go. But it's true, this division right now on SmackDown, it's not like they have a lot of great options for someone else to put in there with Io. We know the fracture is coming eventually with Io and Bayley, but they haven't pulled the trigger on that just yet. I sure as hell don't want to see Charlotte get another fucking match with Io right now for the championship. So Bianca is probably by default, even though she just came back, is probably the best choice. Right? Who else would it be? We've seen Charlotte. We've seen Asuka. You're going to put Shotzi in there with her. You put Chelsea Green in there with her? Really? The 0 for 9 Chelsea Green in singles matches this year? Who else are you going to put in there with her? It basically had to be Bianca, because they've done a very poor job with this division on this show. Main event was LA Knight one-on-one with Jimmy Uso. Early in the match, Knight, and we've seen him pull this off before, he does a sunset flip into the ring. When he pulls the opponent forwards, he pulls him right into his knees for a backbreaker. So I like that spot. And then with Knight on the apron, Jimmy took control with a snap suplex. That took us into the final commercial break of the night. Back from the break, Jimmy landed an uppercut that slowed things down a little bit. He hit a hip attack in the corner. Jimmy went for another one, but Knight busted out of the corner and he clotheslined Jimmy to take control. The action ended up spilling out to the floor. And Knight bounced Jimmy off the announce desk. Back inside, Knight came off the top, but he missed and he rolled through. Jimmy hit a Samoan drop for a 2 count. Crowd gave them a "This is awesome" chant, which was being very generous. This was fine. This was solid stuff, but awesome is pushing it. Jimmy went to the top. Knight cut him off. Jimmy fought him off. He hit an Uso splash for a close near fall. Jimmy went back up top. And this is where Knight did that running vertical leap that he does to the top rope. And I noticed something too, because I was watching Jimmy as he waited for Knight to come in. And I wonder, I don't know that his opponents were doing this initially, when he would do the spot and he wouldn't stick the landing, he would fall off. Because I said, if you want to just guarantee that he'll be able to hit it almost every single time, then the opponent, when they're on top, should brace themselves and hold on to the buckle, like the beam. And that way, when he jumps, all he's got to do is grab onto the guy. The guy's not going to go anywhere. And if you go back and watch, that's what Jimmy did. So he basically braced himself, he positioned himself, he held on to the beam. So they figured out a way to make sure that he can pretty much nail the move every single time. Because it is an impressive move, except when you fall, and then it doesn't look as impressive. But he hit the vertical leap, he stuck the landing, followed through with a superplex. And then from there, he nailed the BFT and he pinned Jimmy Uso. After the match, he's on the turnbuckles, he's posing, they have a tight camera shot. So you have to figure, okay, Roman's going to be there waiting for him. And sure enough, as soon as he got back down off the middle rope, here comes Roman Reigns charging in for a spear. But this time, Knight sidestepped him, and then Roman got dropped with a BFT. to a big pop. Knight yelled at him for a little while Roman just laid there on the mat. So after what happened last time, they were in the ring together a few weeks ago, and he got caught with a spear. This time, LA Knight had it scouted. He got a measure of revenge heading into Crown Jewel. I thought this was one of the better matches, one of the better television matches anyway, that we have seen LA Knight have. And again, to illustrate the fact that they are all in on this guy, and it's not just window dressing with him, he's had his fair share of television main events. So it's not just lip service. It's not just sending him out there for, a big promo. Like, they're giving him the chance now multiple times to go out there and close out the show, in the main event and carry the main event of the show. And the fans are with it. So the push is very real. WWE is behind him. The fans are behind him. It's just, unfortunately for him, the timing is just not right because they're not taking that title off of Roman Reigns. It's just not going to happen. But this is the match they decided to do over, say Roman Reigns and AJ Styles, if AJ was back by now. They elected to do this match now. They wanted to strike while the iron was hot. But to truly strike while the iron is hot, you would do a title change and you would put the championship on LA Knight. But again, there's no chance of that happening. And here in this match on this show, there was no doubt about the finish. They were not going to beat LA Knight, obviously a week out from Crown Jewel. But unfortunately, I can't say any differently for Crown Jewel. As predictable as the outcome was here tonight, it's just as predictable next weekend. But I'm starting to think, what finish could they do to protect LA Knight? And it's not an ideal finish. I don't like doing finishes like this. I don't like doing finishes like this at all, let alone on a pay-per-view, PLE, whatever you want to call it. But you could have LA Knight win the match, but just not win the championship. And so he'll always have that in his back pocket where he can say, Roman, I beat you. Not for the title, but I beat you because Roman is so desperate. Maybe whatever he's doing is not working. He's desperate. He low blows LA Knight. The desperation low blow, referee calls for the disqualification. Or you can have one of the Bloodline members get involved for the DQ. It would be a very lame finish. But it would protect him in that he wins the match, but he doesn't win the championship. Because otherwise, we all know what the finish is going to be. Maybe it's a distraction. Maybe it's interference. But it's going to be LA Knight eating a spear and taking the pin. Right? Because we haven't really seen Roman win with the guillotine, I feel like, in a while. And I don't want to see LA Knight go out to the guillotine anyway. So it would likely be a spear and a pinfall. But do not discount the possibility that LA Knight could win the match. He just wouldn't win the championship. And that's always something they could come back to and say, you were scared. I was this close. I had you beat. And you had to weasel your way out of a win. You know that I had you. I had your number. And they could always revisit it down the road if they want to. But again, that would be a very cheap way to end it. One good thing about how they're booking him so far, though, is he's hanging with the top star in the company, even if that star is barely on the show. And I saw the news earlier today. It's unconfirmed, but the belief, I think it came from Meltzer, is that Roman Reigns is currently not scheduled to be at the Survivor Series. And I can believe that. If they're going to do a War Games match or if they're going to do a Survivor Series traditional elimination match, it really should be a combination of Bloodline and Judgment Day members because they did form that alliance a few weeks ago. And so they could do that without Roman being on the show. But just the fact that Roman would not be on the show, and apparently would not be on any shows after Crown Jewel, pay-per-views that is, until the Royal Rumble, but there's no pay-per-view in December, so you're basically going from Survivor Series to the Royal Rumble. But that he would basically be off television, he'll be away until the Rumble season rolls around, and then we'll start seeing him again. It's just, the whole thing is ridiculous. It is absolutely ridiculous. And still there are people who will get pissed off when I say that I continue to be proven right. Every month that goes by, that the title should have been changed at WrestleMania this year. And it wasn't. They wanted to get to 1,000 days. That was their goal. They wanted to be able to say that Roman Reigns has been the champion for 1,000 days. Well, congratulations. Roman Reigns has been the champion for 1,100 plus days. He's been the champion, they said on TV tonight, for 3.5 years. And what does it really mean? Every time we hear a story like this, every time he takes another vacation, every time another pay-per-view goes by and there's no title defense, you can go 5 months between pay-per-view title defenses, not a single match on television this year at all, I think, the whole year. I'm pretty sure the last television match he had was last year. It's Brock Lesnar all over again. And plenty of people complained about Brock Lesnar back then, too, when he was the absentee champion who never would be caught dead wrestling, for the title or not, on television. And we're right back there again. But people make excuses for it because, well, they either like Roman more than Brock, or, oh, I like the Bloodline story, which, again, the Bloodline story, the best parts of the Bloodline story have come and gone. I don't hate the Bloodline, but the Bloodline story is not what it was 6 months ago or a year ago. So every month that goes by, and every time we hear something like this, again, I maintain the title should have changed hands at WrestleMania 39, and it was a bad booking decision. So now we'll get the follow-up at WrestleMania next year. But who knows what the story could have been. You know, if Cody had won this year, who knows who the hot hand would be and what the match might be next year. But they decided to delay it, and so it is what it is. But this is what we end up with. You know, we end up with an absentee champion on the show where it's just not as interesting. It's just not as fun as it was before. The Bloodline shit, you know, with Sammy and everything, when they were cooking with that, man, that was fun. You know, that was great television. And I'm sorry, but putting your phone up to your face and going, call Roman Reigns, that's not good television. That's lazy booking, is what that is. So a decent episode of SmackDown, but not a great show. They did what they had to do to get things, moving along into Crown Jewel, but this is not a very interesting episode of SmackDown tonight. I'll be honest with you. Let's see if the poll reflects that. 61% thumbs up, 22% thumbs in the middle, and 15% thumbs down. Boy, I'll tell you. People are easily amused. You know, it wasn't a bad show. I don't even know if I would go 61, but that's what the people are saying. So, again, you can go vote at Solomonster if you want to chime in and let me know what you thought of tonight's show. 61, I am a little surprised by that, though. 61, I thought it'd be a little less, honestly. Saudi loves Roman. Well, they don't get to see him very often, so to them, it's a big deal when he makes his way over there. Hey, Giandre, is it Giandre or Jandre? I'm gonna call you Jandre. King Cannon with the $4.99 super chat. I think that might be his first one. Congrats on 75K, GWO. You deserve it. See, John Cena gets you still got it chance. I get you deserve it chance. Don't tell me what I do and don't deserve. LOL, you rock. Thank you. Thank you, brother. Mr. King Cannon, I appreciate the support very much. Thank you. And he drops another one, a $9.99. Wants to know, do you think that Rock against Randy was planned for WrestleMania 21? That seemed like the way that they were heading before Rock's contract expired. No, I don't believe there was ever a plan for Rock and Randy at WrestleMania 21. And in fact, there was talk that Rock was looking into the possibility. This was always the story that I had heard, that Rock wanted to possibly have a match with the Macho Man, Randy Savage. He wanted to bring Randy Savage back to WWE, which was never going to happen for a lot of different reasons. And so that was at least just an idea that I think he had. But again, the contract, they let the contract lapse, and he took that as a slap in the face. And he of all people. And they said, oh, it was a clerical error. It was an oversight. I'm sorry. The Rock's contract expiring is an oversight? So there was some bad blood there for a little while. That, and Rock had a lot of people in his ear, his agents and other people in Hollywood, telling him that, look, if you want to break into Hollywood in a big way, You got to put this wrestling thing on the back burner, and you got to put some distance between you and wrestling. So it was a combination of things. He disappeared for what was it, 7 years? And then eventually he came back. But I think he was interested in a possible Macho Man match. I think that was the match that he was going to consider for WrestleMania 21. And knowing Savage's condition at that point, just watching him in TNA, what little he did there, that would have been awful. I mean, I just don't think... I don't think even The Rock could have brought out the Macho Man of old at that point. I just think he was washed. You know, physically, he was washed. The real CS02 with the $4.99. Does a loss to Cena at Crown Jewel ruin momentum that Solo has? I would say no, as WWE has done a great job protecting him since he was called up last year. Yeah, I agree. I mean, it would be nice to see Cena put him over in a big way, but look at the push that this kid has gotten since he got called up to the main roster. He's been part of the top, you know, main event picture on that show. On both shows, really, because he's been on Raw and SmackDown. But he's been in the upper echelon of talent in that company from day one because of who he's related to. He's had that benefit. He's been booked very, very strongly. You know, he doesn't need to be on an undefeated streak. He's taken more losses, I feel like, recently than he has up to this point. But, you know, even just him being in the ring with John Cena is going to be a big deal for him. But I think back to the singles match that Cena had with Austin Theory at WrestleMania, and it just wasn't very good. So I'm not sure what kind of match they're going to have. I would imagine it's going to be basically 85% John Cena selling for it, which is why I think Cena's going to end up winning in the end. I just don't see this being a total squash. And if Cena's going to end up selling for most of the match, then he'll make that big comeback in the end, and he'll probably pull out the win. That's what he does now. You know, he mostly just sells. You know, when he had that tag team match on television with LA Knight, he spent 90% of the match selling until he made the hot tag. You know, that's just the formula for his matches now. The Mount Vernon Kid, Christopher Bennett, says, hey, Solo. We lost a few legends these past few days. Suzanne Summers, Richard Roundtree, the original Shaft. Now Richard Mole, a.k.a. Bull Shannon. I did see that before I went live tonight. I'm very sad to hear that. Bull, the bailiff from Night Court, passed away, according to his agent. He was 80 years old. And I'm a big Night Court mark, so that's really what I knew him from. And I was very sad to hear that. I was kind of hoping that we would see him on this Night Court reboot, which I admit I fell out of three or four episodes in. I didn't hate it. It's not the Night Court of old, but it was okay. You know, they brought back John Larroquette. Did they get Richard Mole to make a cameo? Because at least the episodes I saw, he wasn't on the show. I was kind of hoping they would get him to make a cameo at some point, but I don't know that he ever did. So anyway, I was very sad to hear that. Misfit Wrestling Podcast with the $5 super chat. When is Io allowed to wrestle other people on the roster not named Charlotte or Bianca? Well, they have to add more people to the division that are worthy of being in the ring with her, and I think they have one coming in very soon. We can hope, if she goes to SmackDown, that is Kairi Sane. She wrapped up in Japan. She should be back any week now. This is right around the time that she was due to be back in WWE. So if she goes to SmackDown, I don't know what her alignment will be as far as if she's going to be paired off with anybody, but I'll tell you, man, Kairi can't come to that show quick enough. She can't come fast enough. Rob G with the $1.99 wants to know favorite sports logo. For him, it is the Mighty Ducks. I was a big Mighty Ducks fan when I saw that movie when I was younger as a kid. I don't know, pro sports teams, I could say the Mets and be a homer. I'll give you a minor league one, though. There is a minor league baseball team, at least I think there still is. There was a few years ago. There's a minor league baseball team in, I want to say Alabama, called the Rocket City Trash Pandas. So if you've never heard of them, look up their logo. I mean, just the name itself, but they got a pretty badass logo too. I think I might have to go with them. I would go with the Rocket City Trash Pandas. I think has the best logo in sports. Love Lie. Actually, I skipped a few here. DJ Pharaoh. I'm getting ahead of myself. DJ Pharaoh. Thank God Logan didn't knock Ray's fake eye out. That's right. I forgot about that. Ray has the fake eye that Seth Rollins, the gumball that he popped out. That was a fun review. Extreme Rules. The Horror Show. I remember it well. DEH Sires with $4.99. I prefer Triple H over Vince, but some weeks where shows just feel like they're there, HBK is the best booker they have in WWE. Every NXT feels different. I'll tell you what, as far as the women's division is concerned, Shawn Michaels is blowing away whatever Triple H and Vince was doing with the main roster women. So I hate to say pull Shawn Michaels away from NXT and let him run the women's division on Raw and SmackDown, but they probably would be much better off doing that. He's putting them all to shame. Love Lie. I just went to a Caribbean restaurant and they gave me 4 Jamaican patties instead of 2. How is your night going? Well, apparently not as good as yours. And you got double. I'd like to go into Popeyes one day and have them give me 4 legs instead of 2. That would make my night. So I wish I could say my night was as good as yours, but I think you got me beat. DEH says you should do a special Halloween NXT show review. I will be reviewing night 1 of NXT on the podcast this Sunday. So if you want my thoughts on Halloween Havoc, I got a lot to say. Tune into episode 832. I got you covered. EJ Slemp. In honor of the World Series, I was wondering if you could share the story you told on episode 406 about your roommate during the 2000 World Series. Well, I should just direct people to episode 406 if they want to hear the story. I've actually told a number of roommate stories on the podcast over the years. But that is episode 406 in the archives. It's up for anybody who wants to go back and listen to it. So I'd rather have people go back and check it out themselves. Rodimus Prime with the $10 super chat. Hey, Rodimus, what's going on? Don't know if you've talked about it, but your thoughts on D'Lo Brown. Would you say that he is one of the unsung heroes of the Attitude Era? Yeah, I would say so. D'Lo was great. I enjoyed D'Lo a lot. He was one of my favorites when he would come out because he was always very entertaining. I don't know how he kept his head on his shoulders whenever he would walk out to the ring. He was swinging it back and forth so violently. But the chest protector gimmick after Dan Severn injured him, and he won multiple titles during that period of time. He was one of those, mid-card players on the roster who got over. Russo, the thing about Russo during the Attitude Era, for better or worse, is that he tried to give everybody on the roster, no matter how high up on the card they were, a story. And they weren't always great stories, but he tried to give them a story and do something with them, or a gimmick or something. And D'Lo was one of the more popular mid-card players on that roster. He was never a main eventer, but I think most people would look back fondly on his run, I think, during the Attitude Era. So I enjoyed it. Brumakian Productions is going to be watching Halloween 78 on a Halloween night. Well, I got you beat. I watched it in 4K on DVD the other night. So I may save a different Halloween film, maybe Halloween 3 or 4. I may save that for Tuesday. Because I generally do not watch NXT live. I need a wrestling break. I cannot watch wrestling every night. I can't do it. I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. So I try to take a wrestling break at least a few days a week, or I will totally burn myself out on wrestling. And so it just so happens that Tuesday is Halloween, so I think we'll watch a Halloween movie. Andre Johnson went to the show tonight. Now I'm dragging through this double taping. Can't wait to listen to your review on the ride home. There you go. Andre was at the tapings in Milwaukee tonight. Super Pony, they would not have Logan beat KO, would they? Oh, they would. They would. I think they would. But if that ends up being the match of WrestleMania, I think KO's winning. I mean, look, they had him lose to Roman Reigns. I would say that almost anybody else, though, is fair game. You know, that he could very well get a win, and then they come back, they do a rematch. Roman may be the only one on the roster who I would say is pretty much protected, that there's no way he would lose to Logan Paul. That they would have him lose to Logan Paul, but anybody else, Kevin Owens. Yeah, I could see him beating Kevin Owens. Joseph Brooks with the $9.99. Is it true that the reason Eddie Guerrero lost the WWE title was not because they were mad at him, but the exact opposite? They felt he put too much pressure on himself. That is true. And I think he may have talked about that in his book. Eddie was very, very in tune with how business was during his run. Tickets, you know, how was the gate? What's the house look like? What are the ratings like? And they were not great when he was champion. I think they went down. Whether or not it's fair to blame him entirely for that, I don't think that's fair to put all the blame on just one person for that. But it was, I think, kind of wreaking havoc on him and putting him in a headspace that wasn't great. I don't think it was good for him. So I think that had a lot to do with why they took the title off of him, because he didn't really have it for very long, right? He won it in February. He lost it in June, I think. He should have at least gone to SummerSlam, at least, as the champion. So that is true. That is a true story. Be the Booker segment is in jeopardy, I'm being told. Oh yeah, we're way off the likes goal here. It doesn't look like it's happening tonight. It's not looking good. Dev to Dust. Robert De Niro in Raging Bull was incredible. I can't deny that. It's a random observation, but I agree. And Taxi Driver. DEH. Think Kyrie returns and helps Io retain, leading to a tag match at Survivor Series. And I would love to see how HBK would book Charlotte if he had the book. Shawn Michaels is probably, I mean, how could he not be in the running for Best Booker when it comes to the women in a North American promotion? You know, I can't sit here and put him over Stardom because I don't follow everything Stardom does, and Stardom is so praised by people. So I won't say, you know, that he books the women better than, you know, Rossi Ogawa does, but I mean, Impact does a good job with their knockouts, so they deserve praise for that too. But Shawn Michaels has got to be number one as far as the booking of the women, and you know, I don't even think it's close, frankly. Anis, LA Knight's next program opponent will cost him the match. What are your thoughts? Well, the question is, I mean, who is that program with? I don't know. It's possible. Chris AXC, who do you think comes back to WWE when their AEW contract is up first? Malachi Black, Miro, Buddy Matthews, or Andrade? Also, what is your favorite show all week? This week, honestly, I think of all the shows this week, Raw, NXT, Dynamite, SmackDown, Collision hasn't happened yet. I would go Halloween Havoc. I think Halloween Havoc was the best of all the shows this week. Raw, I don't know what happened to Raw this week. Raw was just a fucking bore for most of it. Outside of the Drew McIntyre-Sami Zayn match, Raw was a fucking bore. SmackDown tonight was not that much better. It was better, but it was not that much better. Because this is one of those weeks where 3 hours of Raw really hurt the show. And just by virtue of being 2 hours, I can't sit here and tell you that SmackDown was as bad as Raw. Dynamite was not a bad show, but I think Halloween Havoc would probably get it. Hopefully Night 2 can deliver just the way Night 1 did. As far as the first part of your question, of those names, if at least one of them goes back to WWE, I mean, it does boil down to when their contract is up. So if Andrade's contract is up before Malachi, for example, then I would think Andrade would beat him to the punch. If we assume that all of their contracts were up at the same time, man, I'm going to say I think Malachi or Andrade. Honestly, I think Malachi would love to work with Triple H, and if he believed that it is a Triple H run WWE when it comes to creative, that Vince is truly out of the picture, then I think it would be Malachi Black, because I think he knows that he would be treated well. And it really struck me when he did that Instagram video several weeks ago, the Instagram stories, and he told us, that he's had the partial calf tear, and that's why he's been out. And he said, I appreciate the concern that people have had for me as far as why you don't see me in singles matches more often. He says, I don't know. And I just thought that was a very telling comment, that he can't be happy about that. You can't tell me that he is not on some level disappointed or upset that he is not used more often in a singles capacity. And I think he knows that if he goes back to WWE, there's no House of Black. He'll be used in a singles capacity, and probably at a very high level. I could see him being a top guy world champion on Raw. Malachi Black feuding with Seth Rollins for the World Heavyweight title. Malachi Black and Gunther for the World Heavyweight title. Like, that could be a program on Monday Night Raw, easily. So I'm going to say Malachi, but I think Andrade will probably be looking for the exit door too, would be my guess. Part of it also is just the fact that their significant others are working for WWE, and that may factor into their decision too. They might just want to be closer to their, to their better halves. That could play into their decision as well. We've got Abu Sika is dropping a $1.99 super chat on me. Says, greetings from Nakasongola. Thank you. Thank you, Abu Sika. And Love Lie, do you care to see Gunther Ilya main event Berlin? Yeah, I don't know where this mad rush is. I mean, I get that Ilya Dragunov, he's got dual citizenship, and he grew up, I think, he went from Russia to Germany, so he's got that connection to Germany. And I mean, believe me, nobody would love to see another match between Gunther and Ilya Dragunov more than me. Their first two matches were incredible in NXT. NXT UK, and then I think NXT proper. They had their second match. And I have no doubt that it will happen again at some point. And if it happens and when it happens on the main roster, it will be incredible. And it would be great to see it in front of a bigger audience than the one they're going to have in Berlin. Because in Berlin, they're running a regular arena. They're not even running a stadium. But that's all I've heard on social media the last few days. Gunther and Ilya, book it. He's not even on the main roster yet. Can we please allow Ilya Dragunov to at least have his run as the NXT champion? The guy just won the championship. Has he even had 2 full months yet as the champion, and people are already rushing him out of NXT? Because look, the Berlin show is at the end of August. You're not putting Ilya Dragunov on the main roster and vaulting him into a World Heavyweight Championship match in 3 months, right? You've got to build the guy up, and hopefully he'll get over on the main roster the way that he's gotten over in NXT. But it may take time. You can't expect to rush these things. People are rushing him onto the main roster and putting him in the main event for the World Heavyweight title. He's not even on the main roster yet. and people are just rushing him into the main event. It's comical to me. Like, it's not going to happen. Let him have his time in NXT. There'll be time. Like, Braun Breaker is somebody who is not doing anything in NXT. He should be on the main roster right now. Ilya Dragunov, he'll get there. Let him have his run. Stop rushing him to the main roster. Because he's from Germany does not mean he needs to be in the main event of the Berlin show. Gunther will probably be in the main event of that show, defending the World Heavyweight Championship. It does not have to be against Ilya Dragunov. And if it is, great. But I don't think it's very realistic to expect that he would be ready for that spot by the time they get to the Berlin show when he's not even on the main roster yet. And I've heard no chatter. I've read no reports about him being, imminently called up or anything like that. Let him have his run. He's going to be defending that title, at least I think, through WrestleMania weekend. Realistically. Maybe he gets the call up in the next draft. They do a draft in May, let's say. I could see him getting called up in the draft in May. You expect him from May to the end of August to be in the main event challenging for the World Heavyweight Championship? That's awfully optimistic. People need to calm down here. Yeah, Tyler Bate. See, Eli, that's a great point. Tyler Bate has been down in developmental for years and years and years. He's been more than ready for a main roster call-up. What about him? You're going to vault Ilya over him? Why? Because you're going to be running Germany? That's a stupid reason to do it. So a Braun Breaker or a Tyler Bate, those are guys that should be called up before Dragunov. Hey, Boney, thank you for the $5. How underrated were Brian Kendrick and Paul London as a team? They held their titles for almost a year, but they are never brought up like other teams. I think part of that is the fact that London just sort of went nuts there for a while. I mean, he's a weird guy. Kendrick has had his own issues that have bubbled up in recent years that have given people pause. But even before that, yeah, they didn't really get a lot of love or a lot of attention. They really weren't pushed that hard as a tag team. It was sort of a brief period of time, but they were very good. So I don't know. I don't know why they don't get more notoriety or more attention from people. It could just be, again, it was a relatively short run that they had. It could be as simple as that. And we got a couple of final super chats here, and then we'll get on out of here. We got DEH coming in. Thank God WWE is leaning more towards international PLEs. I enjoy it just because in most cases, I get to watch the shows in the middle of the day and do my stream at a normal time instead of doing them super late. Like the AEW ones, I just can't stand. I'm sorry. Like AEW, they hit home runs generally with their pay-per-views. They're excellent shows, but taking it all the way to midnight and then going live at 12:30 in the morning, like I fucking hate that. That's the thing I hate the most about reviewing those AEW shows. So when you get a pay-per-view like Crown Jewel is coming up, right? Here in the East Coast, it's a 1 o'clock start. Now when it's over, I'm probably live on YouTube no later than 4:30 in the afternoon. It's great. It's great. So yeah, more international PLEs is fine with me. And plus, the crowds are awesome because they're so starved for these shows that they want them to keep coming back for more. And they're excited to just have them there. So, of course, they're usually very loud and full of energy. So it just makes them more fun to watch. Luis is dropping in with a $5 super chat. 400 likes for Be the Booker, or else the Winged Dragon of Raw will haunt you in your absolute worst nightmares all weekend long. The Winged Dragon of Raw? The hell is that? Thank you, Luis. The Winged Dragon of Raw. Daniel Malcolm, how would you say, or who, well, I think he means who would you say had the best moonsault and who has the worst? Charlotte Flair's, the in-ring moonsault that she does, because she always lands on her feet, basically. It's terrible. It's just awful. And I guess sometimes the one that she does outside. It's weird because Charlotte has that twisting moonsault that she does, and that one usually looks a lot better. But it's just, she's got those long legs, and it just doesn't work. And I really wish she would stop doing it, but she's never going to. Best moonsault. Man, there have been some great moonsaults before. You know who had a great moonsault? It was so perfect. Like everything else he did. I know this is a big shock, but Kurt Angle had a tremendous moonsault. Kurt Angle may have had the best moonsault. The visual of him doing the moonsault off the top of the cage in that Raw match with Benoit is something I will never forget. It was an insanely stupid bump, and he's paying the price for it today, but Kurt Angle's moonsault was always just so graceful. You know who reminds me of that? Chad Gable. Chad Gable has a great moonsault too. But Kurt Angle, I may have to go with Kurt. I think Kurt may get my vote. Vader's was impressive because he was so big. And I had never seen somebody that big, like a super heavyweight, do a moonsault before. But it wasn't pretty. Let's not pretend that Vader's moonsault looked great. It really didn't look great. Although I applaud him for doing it, for trying it. So yeah, my vote goes to Kurt Angle. And I do believe that we have a gifted membership here from Justin G. And I know we had more earlier from someone, and I don't have it in front of me. Let me see if I can check. Who sent that gifted membership in earlier? I will check after. I know somebody else gifted a membership as well. So thank you to both of you. And it looks like we did actually cross the likes goal. We did. We just hit 400 likes on the dot. How about that? So we got there, barely. You're disappointing me, man, with how close you're cutting it. Should not be that. It should not be that difficult. You gotta help out the stream, man. You gotta help out the videos. I want this video in the recommended so people see it and they go, "What the hell is a Solomonster?" And then they click on it and they go, "Man, this shit is good, man. This is good shit. I'm gonna subscribe to this channel. I'm gonna tune in. I'm gonna be part of the community here." All right, let's be the booker.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time to be the booker.
When you hear the voice of Noah Mark, you know it is time to be the booker. And so we will begin. Why don't we shake it up this time? We're going to shake it up and do things a little bit different. And what we're going to do is we're going to start with Tag Team Be the Booker. And we are going to begin with the Faces of Fear. Meng and the Barbarian, and there's Jimmy Hart in the middle. And if you have seen a picture of Jimmy Hart recently, as I just did on Instagram earlier today, he had dinner with Jake Roberts and Hacksaw Jim Duggan. I will tell you that Jimmy Hart does not age. You could take this image of him from this picture on your screen, and he basically looks exactly the same. So he may be a vampire, I'm not sure. But we begin here with the Faces of Fear. Meng and the Barbarian are going to be taking on Billy and Chuck, former WWF Tag Team Champion. Well, I guess it was WWE, right, at that point. Billy and Chuck against the Faces of Fear sounds pretty fucking terrible, I'm not going to lie. That sounds pretty fucking terrible. Now we will do Women's Be the Booker. We're basically going in reverse is what we're doing from our usual order, just to shake things up. And we begin with the former Women's Champion, Wendy Richter. Part of the rock and wrestling era. I grew up watching Wendy Richter. Actually, that's not true. I think Wendy Richter was already gone by that point when I really started paying attention. But nonetheless, there she is. Wendy Richter got screwed over by Spider Lady. The first screw job that Vince McMahon put into play. Wendy Richter one-on-one with Alicia Fox. Alicia Fox, as Noam Dar would say. We are having a terrible Be the Booker night here. Let's pop the men's Be the Booker up here. Please, for the love of God, save us. Save us. This is not going well. Save us. Bad Bunny. Bad Bunny. You know, don't laugh. When this year is over, I will tell you right now, the year is not done yet. And I got Will Ospreay. He's all over the list of best matches this year. But that Bad Bunny and Damian Priest match from Backlash in San Juan, if that does not win match of the year for me, and it probably won't, but it's going to be pretty high up on that list. That was one of my favorite matches all year. One of the most fun times I had watching a match this year was actually that Bad Bunny match. So I got to give the Bunny credit. I got to give him credit. Bad Bunny. Oh, I can't not laugh when I see this image. What the hell is going on here? That, ladies and gentlemen, is Chris Jericho. But that is Chris Jericho from his Painmaker days in New Japan. It's probably the worst possible image. I just, no. I can't give it the bell. I can't give it the bell. So we had a clean sweep on Be the Booker. Unfortunately, it was not the clean sweep that we were looking for. But it was a clean sweep. Yeah, I think we're going to stick to the original order from now on. I think somehow our luck got worse by reversing the order. Yeah, I don't know what was going on with Jericho in that match. I'm pretty sure that may have been during the match with Omega. That he had at Wrestle Kingdom. Maybe not. Maybe it was a different one. Anyway. Yeah, you know, I think I just cost myself Booker of the Year. Man. Now I got to go on a Twitter tirade like Tony Khan did. When people were trolling him that Shawn Michaels would win Booker of the Year over him. He didn't like that very much. Here's a piece of advice for any aspiring promoter out there. Don't pay attention to whether or not you get a Booker of the Year award from a newsletter. Don't let it bother you. And we got a late $25 super chat here from Mr. Ozone. Mr. Ozone. Oh, no. Wait, $25. This is Kevin Patrick's commentary ruined that contract signing segment. You know, I didn't even notice because I kind of try to tune him out, to be honest with you. So. Looks like we're safe, though. Looks like it might not get triggered. I was worried. I think we're okay. I think we're safe. I saw the 25. I said, oh, no. I said, oh, no. Hey, Mr. Ozone, though, thank you, man. Thank you for the $25. I appreciate that very much. And Maze the Great, a channel member for 28 months. How about that? 28 months. Says, now you be talking about Triple H's booking of the women when you're not... Oh. Thought I might avoid it. I thought that it was going to have mercy on me tonight. I thought that it saw how badly I botched Be the Booker, and it was actually sparing me the super chat. But I should have known better. That may be, by the way, the last time you ever hear that one, the Halloween version, because that's a limited time only Halloween version of Brie Mode. And we only have very, very few streams left before Halloween, so Mr. Ozone may have just triggered it for the final time. But yes, Maze is he's saying that here I am talking about the way Triple H books the women when I'm not exactly better. No, I'm far worse. I mean, I admit it. These Be the Bookers with the women have been horrible. You definitely don't want me booking your women's division. That's for sure. We still got Wolfman says we still got Monday. We still got Monday left to go. Yes, we do. We have the Halloween Raw stream. It'll be Halloween Eve on Monday when I am with you for that Monday Night Raw stream. So we'll have some Halloween fun there. Anyway, thank you guys for hanging out with me tonight for a SmackDown review here, the final SmackDown review for the month of October. Appreciate it very much. I will, of course, be dropping episode 832 of the podcast on Sunday. You guys know the drill. Every Sunday, the podcast goes up. So please be sure to check that out. Live, of course, Monday night for the Monday Night Raw review. That will be the final review for the month of October. And that will carry us into what is shaping up to be a very, very busy month of November. 3 pay-per-views, including Crown Jewel, in the month of November. And it's also the 16-year anniversary of the Sound Off. 16 years. November of 2023 will represent 16 years since I started doing the podcast. So hopefully you will celebrate with me all month long. So until then, be well. Stay safe. Thank you for the support. And we'll do it all over again right here on YouTube very soon. Until then, happy Halloween.